Mega, you there? Hello? Mega.
I am here.
You're here? You
Yeah.
decided to leave me? Just as I
No,
get the audio right?
no. Oh man.
well, 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 guys, we're live. Just give us a couple seconds. We're probably gonna tweet it out and all that good stuff, and give you guys the time to get in here. And before we get like an actual intro going on for Devin the Gamer, because that's like the next step. But how's it going there, Mega? How's it going there, buddy?
Oh, everything going good, man. You caught me right in the midst of in the bathroom, and I was like, oh.
Oh, okay. Did you wash your hands?
Yes. Very
Okay, I
quick.
was about to say because like we can I can just hit pause here and you can go take care of your
No,
business.
it was pretty quick. It was a pretty quick rinse down, but yeah, no, I got to
Okay,
it, and
okay.
also got some hand sanitizer, so just to be
I
safe.
bet you got the way you are. You probably got a ton of that right now, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Clorox wipes, alcohol, witch hazel. I got I got a witch's brew over here, so I got all types of stuff.
Nice. All right.
Oh
Well,
man.
it's official. It's been tweeted out. We may get two
Okay.
people. We may get one person. Who knows what's going to end up happening today? Because well, they never know when we're going to actually do this. So
Right, I know. If we can get a schedule, especially I'm getting ready to start figuring out my schedule for Mixer, so people can know what I'm going to be playing. Mostly a lot of Halo 5, but definitely playing a couple of other new things as well, so people can be aware of that, and then also Sunday night fights. But other than that, um, yeah, no, we start getting that taken care of with Devin the Gamer, and then I'm doing GRG on Mixer now, so on Friday night. So yeah, it's getting planned out. We're gonna start getting it all together.
yeah, I think every 2 weeks is a good time for us. If we can get in a kind of a rhythm for that, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So, all right, well, we're already here. We're getting started, so hopefully the people will start to come. It's I have no idea which number of Devin the Gamer it is by this point in time. I've lost track. I'll probably have to look it up when I go and check through my
I was gonna put it in
Devin
the
the Gamer
banner,
listings.
but like I figured no one really knows. It's kind of like the center of a Tootsie Pop. No one really knows. So
Yeah,
The
yeah, but it's good. Whatever that's in the center of a Tootsie
done.
Pop, it is good.
that's some generic ass chocolate. That's all I know.
I
um,
have
yeah.
no idea what it is, but it is good. So anyway, all right. So let's get started. Very first thing I want to talk about is something that I just seen probably early. Well, it was earlier today. Um, it was an interview, and it was in regards to Game Pass, and it was a lot of interesting things. I don't know if you got the chance to check it out when I told you about it, but it it basically was, we hear the rumors and we hear all types of speculation about Game Pass and how it hurts gamer and well, it hurts companies because it doesn't seem like they benefit by getting enough revenue. It holds certain gamers back. Basically, it doesn't let the devs have the freedom. I've heard that as well, and it also states that the game filler gap is just only going to be certain smaller titles that can be generated for Game Pass and not AAA, quadruple A experiences. And in this interview, that was basically all debunked. I definitely, I mean, I'll put that link in the description once,
The
it pops up and then you give it to me or
done.
whatever, and I'll let people listen to that interview. But it was pretty interesting because they were basically saying they're the makers of Gears Tactics. They were saying that Gears Tactics wouldn't even be made if it wasn't for Game Pass. The opportunity for Game Pass to come out is because Game Pass gives the developers a lot of freedom to make games that they want to. And I've heard you say this quite a few times, Don, to where, if
Listen up.
there's an idea or something with a game that maybe a developer wants to do or they want something to work on, they send it to the publisher, and then the publisher, they basically kind of say, you know what, I know that you're working on this, but what about this that you already have right now? How about you work on that? I've heard you say that. So why don't you kind of elaborate a little bit and let us know from your standpoint of how beneficial Game Pass uh, could mean to other developers and for the gamers.
And the way I've always looked at a Game Pass is kind of like if you look at other forms of entertainment, not everyone can afford to go to the movie theater. Some people do cable television, movie theaters, and Netflix, right? And some people do Disney Plus, and like more avenues you can to reach a wider audience, the better, if that makes any sense, right? So when you're doing here now is you're casting in like a much bigger net, right? So what you're seeing this progression, and this is a progression that you've seen mostly this
The
generation. Oh my gosh, I'm
done.
gonna have to turn those notifications down. Those are loud. Uh, but but what tends to happen is you know everything when you spend money, you're risking your time and a publisher's money, you're basically saying, "Hey, we're going to get a return on investment what we spend on this particular item, and all we're going to do is stamp a disc." I think those days are gone. Does that make sense? Because some people are digital people, some people are subscription-based service people, some people are going to be streaming people. We talked about this, right? Like even though I'm not, some of those categories don't apply to me, they apply to other gamers, and that's what's important. And just because it applies to other gamers doesn't necessarily mean it basically threatens the other stuff. If that makes any, if I don't know, does that make any sense to you? I think a lot of people are always really worried about, hey, this may threaten something else that I really enjoy, like the disc variant or owning your own games or whatever it may be. Does that? What's your take
No,
on
no,
that?
it makes a lot of sense. Basically, I mean that was what you're saying is kind of like what the interview with the guys was basically talking about. They were saying that the old way of getting a game sent out and then worrying about the sales numbers about the game, it's all kind of dead and gone with Game Pass. Game Pass, like I said, gives so much more freedom and the boost in people in other gamers that may not have ever gave that game an opportunity if they had to spend money on it. They're now actually looking at these games. They're investing into them. They're telling their
The
friends about it. They're showing
done.
um, they're streaming it or they're showing it to friends. And then even if that individual themselves didn't buy the game, their friends bought the game, and then they've seen a spike where they said with Gears 4 it had a 40 to 50% spike. It had other games that where people were basically playing Call of Duty or Battlefield. They're now starting to play other different games, and every game that has been on Game Pass have seen a significant jump, not only with sales but with also just notoriety, just being out there and knowing that some of these games wouldn't get the light of day. Um, Otherwise, if it was going by the old method, that Game Pass is giving them so much more opportunity to get their game to be known and shown, and it really helps out
Well,
the
it
indie
lowers
developer.
that risk, right?
Right.
So a publisher is just risk invert. So it doesn't matter if it's a small game or a big game. They want to spend X number of dollars, but they want to expedite what they get in their return. So if you lower that risk, um, you create you create an ecosystem where publishers are willing to spend money. They're willing to back games that normally wouldn't get backed, right? And I think you got it from the gamer side of things. Like how you share things today is totally different. Um, you know, how many times have we been streaming something, right? And somebody will say, "Oh, I haven't bought Halo 5. It's in Game Pass." Boom, they're downloading it. Next thing you know, they're on a fire team, right? And they're enjoying the game. They're having an opposite experience what the public perception was of the product out there, either motivated by people that either say hate Microsoft or motivated by people that don't like the changes or whatever it may be. They're trying it out for themselves, and sometimes that's as what games need. Games need to find an audience, and there's just different ways of delivering all that sort of stuff. I'm still going to be the guy that buys my games, right? Um, Game Pass is a supplement for me, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have value, right? And people's value in it totally different. I saw Xbot hosting the stream, and he's a perfect example. Like, he doesn't buy as many games as he did, but he renews up Game Pass. Like, he has it like on a monthly renewal, so he doesn't even have like the where you take advantage of some of the deals that have been out there, and he's okay with spending his money that way. There's 100% nothing wrong with that. And there's some months on Game Pass where I'm not getting much value out of it, but other people do. Like, for example, Red Dead Redemption just came out right on Game Pass. Red Dead Redemption would have sold anyways, regardless of Game Pass. And I think that's a perfect example of a recent game that's in Game Pass, that's made by Rockstar, which their their sales just continue and continue and continue to go on, and they're like, this is not going to affect us in a negative way, and this is going to allow us to reach more people. And everyone else that has Game Pass, you're like, man, I've been looking forward to getting that game, and they're like, now I get to try it this way, and the it just doesn't affect them in any sort of. There doesn't seem to be a negative to it, in regards to that, and I think it fills that gap of what we used to have when we grew up there, Mega. We used to have the blockbusters, right, and the Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
videos, and the mom and pops where you would go in, and only way you get to try a game is rent it out. Now you have a service that's literally way less than what I would pay in rentals a month, right? And I get to play this library of games at any time I'm at my convenience as a consumer. The value there is just, it's just off the charts. I mean, and that's really what this stuff is kind of about. It's about getting people to try games, getting a bigger audience, and people people spend their money all sorts of different ways, and that's their business. And I think as an industry, it's our business to find out ways to deliver that content that works for in a mutual benefit to everybody. So
No, I totally agree. And see, that was the thing. That there's all of this misconception from people that is just thought that they just like to make stuff up, and so many people run with it. It it really was refreshing to hear those developers just kind of break it down, and there was no kind of no disrespectful. It wasn't done in a disrespectful way. They were just like, hey, look, the benefit of what Game Pass can do is beneficial to everyone. It's not only just for the beneficial for the gamer, because they feel that they have that they feel like they're kind of getting over or whatever. It's the fact of the developers getting that freedom, and that's the one thing that so many people were bringing up for the last couple of years regarding to to the coalition and to 343, saying that these developers are not having their creative freedom, and it's being taken away from them because they're just kind of being forced into doing Halo and Gears. But as they were as they were saying was that this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a different type of Gears game. They just wanted to they wanted to not only just stick with Gears as it's been known, but they wanted to get Gears into another genre and get people to start appreciating that. They also was kind of bringing up the whole point about it for it being PC first, things like that. But it was just primarily just talking about like the financial benefits of what Game Pass could do and what it has done so far. And just looking at, like, I mean, it's just like what Spider-Man posted. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a huge game. It's already sold uh, tens of millions of copies. So for them to even want to put their game on Game Pass, and for all these other companies that wants to do it as
well,
well, it
I
just
think
kind of
I think it
shows.
goes beyond that with like Red
Yeah.
Dead. You know, I mean, if you look at Rockstar Games, how often are their games always in the top 10 years down the road, right?
Right. Right.
So, normal games, they see their spike between the first to 6 months. Is where the majority of their sales are made, right?
Hmm.
Rockstar is the exception to that, right? Their games are continuously, yeah, maybe they may sell the most in the first 1 to 6 months, but they still sell more than most people years down the road with their products sometimes, right? And they're that type of game studio where they just resonate with that many gamers, right? And people always continuously talk about those experiences. The fact that they're willing to do Game Pass, it really kind of throws in the narrative that people say, hey, people are just, where people put their games out the pasture sort of argument that I see a lot, on Twitter and stuff like that. And that's really not the case. I mean, certain publishers will have different strategies using Game Pass and how they'll use it. But the reality is, it gets more games in the hands of gamers at a reasonable value proposition, and realistically, everyone's winning. People won't continue to put games in there unless there was a net positive for them, and developers are seeing a net positive on it. You're also seeing people, take advantage of the game as a service sort of thing too, right? Sometimes Game Pass is the thing that gets them in the door, and they do some continuous investments, and that just all contributes to more games, better games, newer ideas. That's the other thing too, right? Now, if you lower the risk, now developers can start entertaining these newer ideas where there's not precedence before. There's not say a franchise behind it or a genre that's established genre behind it. We can start seeing new games again, instead of just borrowing from other games and kind of sandwiching it into what that game is, right? And kind of come up with like a goulash of a new game is probably the best way to describe what we're seeing a lot this last generation. We can kind of break away from that a little bit, and just add more variety. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. One more of the point to this is about how does it help with game sales, things like that. Well, if you kind of think about it, because of the fact that there's so many more people that has their games exposed to a different demographic of gamers, and even if let's just say that the game is discounted and things like that, it's still uh, there will be people that will buy those games. And normally, from what they were saying was that, well, if a game is at zero, I mean, you know what I'm saying, if it doesn't get enough exposure, and then this game gets looked at by, let's just say, it's looked at by like 1,000 people, and maybe out of that 1,000, maybe 90 people bought that game. Well, without Game Pass, they wouldn't ever even got those 90, those 90 sales, or even more than that. I'm just making, that part he didn't say. I'm just saying. I'm just giving it a point of what he was. I'm just trying to break it down for how he kind of said it on the show, but it was basically it's like, look, I mean, because
The
of the exposure,
Don.
they're gaining more, they're getting more profit for the game because there's people that may not even known about the game, but because their friend told them about it, or somebody seen it in a stream, or however. The point of the matter is that it is contributed into sales and growth, and there's not been a negative so far since Game Pass has been implemented. So I don't know. I mean, what is your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't think everyone's had a. Well, I would say this: some people have seen more success with Game Pass than others, right? So there are going to be some games that just don't thrive in that environment, and that's possible. But the net, it's a net win, if that makes any sense, for most developers, most publishers, and most dev teams. And not every dev team wants to do the huge AAA games. Sometimes they want to experiment with an idea and do something on a smaller scale. And that's an area where Game Pass and digital really help those sort of games thrive, right? Even the streaming services that we're going to be seeing down the road, it will help those people thrive as well. And so, yeah, I see nothing but a net positive. I'm glad more and more information comes out. A lot of personalities that talk about this sort of stuff. Sometimes you got to eat that crow, right? There's a lot of people who invested so much in the idea of the failure of Game Pass. You got to move on. You got to learn beyond what your theories were, and start looking at what people are saying. And I understand this is going to be an Xbox developer talking about this, but we've seen multiple reports by you know by third party as well. And so, I expect a lot of publishers trying to implement their own version of it. But I think that's where Microsoft did really well. They established themselves early on. is that type of service. So it's going to be hard for people to compete. Kind of like how you look at Netflix, right? Disney Plus can try to compete with Netflix, but Netflix is still a juggernaut, right? It just doesn't go away. So I think that's what they do really well. Wait a second, Megan's still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still here. I'm still
Oh,
here.
yeah, yeah, okay.
I forgot I had my mic up. I was saying that Spider-Man was saying that he said you need to learn how to drive because
Ironically,
Disney
this is
rides
a
are
stream
terrible.
that I recorded from you. So,
From who? Me?
yeah,
This isn't my gameplay.
you sure?
I'm positive. Don't
You
say
sure?
this ain't me.
Sure.
This ain't me.
All right. All
I
right.
don't recall. I played this
All
game
right.
maybe twice. This
Listen here.
isn't mine.
This is the only gameplay I had footage I had on my PC. I realized, so I just
Oh
grabbed the
man.
first thing I could grab, man.
And then you're gonna try to blame it on me. Come on. I was like, I mean, I know I played it like maybe 2 or 3 times, but I was like, I don't recall me ever giving you no gameplay about it for me.
No, I tried to go through the hardest way to drive
Oh
in the
man.
game, and
Yeah.
yeah, it drives you nuts. But one of the greatest games ever, right here.
Like I said, it
Mud
reminds me
Runners.
of yeah, it reminds me of work. I have no need
So
to play this
wait.
game.
So you're saying my driving reminds you of work?
No, I was saying
Hmm.
the driving these trucks
Oh, okay.
reminds me of work. So
Okay.
I'm just kind of like, ugh. So and we damn sure wouldn't be driving
This is
out
like
in a
this is like
field.
this is like a third world country. This is
Yeah,
Russia.
I know. Like what's going on here? Like I mean, anyway. So um, all right. Well, I just it just I wanted to definitely talk about that because it was just people just have this thought process that when they listen to the negative, to the hate, they people tend to just they gravitate to it. And then when like if you just hear like just if you make a point about it and then you got maybe 10, 15 people that just kind of jumps all over you about it, then it seems like, well, that person don't really have a comeback, or there's really not nobody else that's defending this, then obviously it has to be true. And then you start, and then it kind of spreads like wildfire that, well, Game Pass is this, when we can see obviously that there is a lot of success going on because there's constantly new games getting added on there,
Hmm.
and it's not only smaller games, but it's big titled games. And 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 to me, that's why I wanted to talk about it. It's just like you got to stop listening to some of these people when, especially if they don't participate in Game Pass and all they do is just kind of just rail on it and disrespect it and just think that it's just nothing but uh I don't know, just it's just being disrespectful to it. Then
Well,
obviously it doesn't make any sense for you
there's
to
a
even listen to those
difference.
people.
Yeah, there's a difference. I think when people go out of their way to hate on something
Yeah,
versus saying, "Hey, it's not for me," because it's not going to be for everybody, right?
no,
I think we have to acknowledge that as well. And there's other methods for those people, but I think the here's the thing is how does those narratives hold up, right? Like what Game Pass does, it flies in the face of a lot of things, right? If you're a reviewer and let's say you consider them legitimate outlets and stuff like that, and a game just bombs on, say, Metacritic, the far as all that starts, that like the media is concerned, right? They just bomb it, right? And then what happens when people all of a sudden play it in Game Pass, and then they're like, this game is pretty good, right? It changes the narrative, and what it does, it slowly discredits those people, right? And when people share that sort of stuff, say like on a stream or something like that, it destroys that narrative. It starts eroding away at that, right? And this is why I keep saying when you've seen these people, you know, go off on these sort of things, I think they have a louder voice than they actually have. And when you start looking at the numbers and what people are looking at, there's all sorts of pockets and all sorts of communities inside gaming, and it's just a small portion of it. And they can tip the scales into whatever their opinions are. I mean, so they can have that level of influence, but I don't think they have that level of influence for quite a while now. And those people that still wear like certain clothes, like like hammer pants, and they're
Oh
yeah,
man, not that.
yeah, but you know what I mean. But it's
Yeah.
like 2020, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, well, what do you mean these are not in style anymore? Like that's what kind of happens with those sort of people is I think their views and their opinions, yeah, they share it in within their own personal group, but eventually they start coming out of touch with what the rest of the gamers are doing, right? So yeah, it's hard to keep your finger on the pulse of that sort of stuff, but I love how Game Pass does kind of fly in the face of that sort of thing, and it just puts the game in the gamer's hands, and I think that's such an important thing. Hope Game Pass is not the only service that provides that. I hope Sony comes out with or refines their PlayStation Now to be a little bit more like Game Pass or their own take on it, right? Like it doesn't have to be exactly like Game Pass, but something like that a little bit more from them. I know Now is kind of like it, but it's kind of not, if you know what I mean. So,
Hmm.
we'll see where all that goes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But now there was also one more point that they did say was that um, more gamers are buying more games now because of Game Pass as well. So that's that's another that because people are experiencing new genres of games that they've never played before. So of course that those sales will go up, and it's showing that there's more gamers that has a lot more games in their library than you would say at the beginning before Game Pass and even in the 360 era. So hey, it may sound kind of cheap when we first was hearing about it, kind of like well, we're getting this, we're getting that. We're not going to get big AAA, quadruple A experiences, things like that. But that's been debunked. I mean, especially when you got Halo Infinite, you got Gears 5, you got Forza, all these other games that's been coming. It's just like they just want to make a whole ecosystem of variety for the gamers, and I totally agree. I mean, Nintendo is going to do what Nintendo does, but PlayStation should definitely uh, try it out because there's so many gems out there that are available on PlayStation that so many people don't take advantage of because they're too busy talking about the same 5 to 6 games.
I think also too is like people don't. I mean, people underestimate the goodwill and the good graces as a platform provider Xbox is
Mhm.
getting on with third party, right? With a service like this, if they're seeing a net positive and they're making more money on your platform, regardless of what people want to argue about on how many units are out there or anything like that, uh, then yeah, that's a huge net positive for those relationships, and you do want to continue to strengthen those relationships just as much as everything else. So it's just a win-win about and the net positive's definitely there. And I would say at this point, like hopefully we're not talking about Game Pass being a positive thing for gaming years down the road because it should be common knowledge by by then, right? We
Right,
shouldn't have to
right,
talk about it anymore.
right.
All right, but and I have a feeling it's going to come up a couple more times. There's going to be a couple more interviews in regards to that, and I think what we need to see is some of those third parties speak up, and sometimes they don't speak up because they want to maintain a healthy strength, equally healthy strength, strong relationship between the two major platforms or three major platform providers out there. They don't want to burn those bridges by talking so highly about one product that another brand doesn't necessarily offer sometimes. Um, but I don't think you should be afraid of that. I think you should be transparent. You should be able to rip that band-aid off and just say, "Hey, this is a really good service." Just because one company is doing a really good service doesn't mean the other company can't do something similar, right? And it's just, I think a little more openness about this. I think is a good thing for everybody. So
All right, yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, look at it like this. I mean, how many people would be talking about the Tiger King if they had to pay for the movie? You see what I'm saying?
no,
So, I mean, nobody would really be talking about the Tiger King unless the people that was like, "Oh, look at this box," or "Look at the picture here. Oh, it's 14.99. I'm not gonna mess with it," or it's whatever. Uh, you know, it's because it was provided through a service that people already pay for monthly, and
mm-hmm.
now you have hundred. I mean, I think it's what up to what 40 million people that's watched that. So
Yeah,
it's crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to
It,
the
it,
services.
it, it
I
put it
never
put
thought about people
Oklahoma
would
on
think
the
about
map,
that.
right? That's what it.
Oklahoma's been on the map, sucker. Watch your mouth.
No, 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 no. I mean, you guys got bull haircuts and silk shirts out there. That's all I know.
Hey. It's a different culture out here, man.
Yeah, it
So
is definitely a wild place. I'll tell you that. that.
so yeah, but no, it's but yeah, no, that's just the benefit of it. But man, yeah, I just definitely want to hear your thoughts about it and stuff like that. So we'll move on. I want to talk about because you came into GRG late last night, so I wanted to get your thoughts on Horizon Zero Dawn 2. This was pretty interesting to me because, of course, we knew that the game was going to make a return, but we've heard one thing that they wanted to make it a trilogy, and which to me I think is kind of crazy to think. I mean, there's of course they're going to make it a trilogy, but I'm thinking in the sense of maybe for the main protagonist, maybe give her 3 parts and then maybe move on to something else because I don't see the game ever. I think it's going to be one of PlayStation's meal ticket games for the foreseeable future. I just don't see they would just stop after a trilogy. But with 2, the writers has been listing for uh, they've been asking, well, they've been looking to hire some people who has experience with MMOs. And basically, what they want to do is they want to make this game co-op, but they also want to implement MMO elements into the game, which got some kind of PlayStation fans feeling some kind of way, pretty much feeling like
So,
that kind of takes away from what they love about the game, and
okay,
they feel like the co-op doesn't work.
so where are they coming from? Because I know what I love from the game. And well, the MMO stuff, I don't know. I'm impartial about that because that can mean so many different things, right?
Right.
Um, you know, the core elements of the game might not even be gone. It's just has something because it's like a little bit of taking that experience and see how you can integrate it to make a more continuous experience, and that makes sense, right? Games as a service. Um, but co-op sounds amazing on that. I mean, and if this is one of my biggest gripes about Sony, and I don't want Sony to stop doing their single player narrative driven games. They're right now they're one of the best at it. If that's all you do on your game and you make a good little adventure, they do a good job at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they should stop doing that, but I do. Just because I don't want them to stop doing that doesn't mean I don't want them to explore other things. And when you talk about online, that's what I want to see more of Sony at a first party level doing. And a co-op experience just kind of makes the most sense. When you look at their library of games, right? If you're gonna choose something, having like deathmatch in a lot of their games, it would just be like another deathmatch, right? But if you do co-op, it would be a very unique experience. It's not like other games haven't done co-op before, but their their games are good. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would love to see that in co-op, but they're not taking it as positively, or they want a
Yeah, no,
solo adventure. What's going on?
there's quite a few. It got more reaction of like of people being disgruntled than they were. I was thinking like, hey, that'd be kind of cool because that's the first thing I thought when they said co-op. I'm like, oh, that the open world is beautiful, and you add a co-op experience to it. That's perfect. I mean, I'm
It
like, I could see
it
me
it may
continuing to
be
play on that for a
it,
while.
it'd be maybe the first PlayStation game we played together. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
First Saturday night game that we play together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, if you look at what is it, the new Assassin's Creed, that's what their rumor is going around too.
Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I guarantee you, once they get that going, like, there's a whole new challenge when you're talking about anything that has stealth elements. And Horizon Zero Dawn does have those elements in there as well.
Hmm.
Stealth co-op, that's a whole nother different set of challenges there. And that, I mean, and when you have good challenges, you can have good gameplay loops. So I mean, it seems exciting to me. So
Right,
yeah,
but this.
they're negative about it, huh?
Yeah,
Really?
they're pretty negative because first off, because this is their thing. Okay, and so the MMO thing for me, I'll get to my thing first, then give you what they're saying. For me, the MMO thing is a little interesting because when you play MMOs, I mean, I've just kind of got started into the MMO genre. It's it's more for about the the character building more than it is do I care about the story. Like when I'm playing Bless or when I'm playing Fantasy Store Online 2, or
Mhm.
or even with what's going on with I'm starting to get back into Warframe. I'm caring more about the building of my character, and going for and trying to progress further into the game, killing enemies so I can and hoarding and things like that, so I can get everything. Not so much for the story aspect of it. I couldn't even really give you a true indication if I paid attention to the story in Bless as much as I am into the development of everything. And with Fantasy Star Online, it's kind of like the same. But I mean, you can also look at a game like Destiny 2. A lot of people are or just Destiny as a whole. People are caught up into the lore of the story, and it seems to work for them, but it still kind of takes away from the story because people don't really talk about the story. They like to brag more about their character and how high their light system is or whatever.
Mhm.
So I that's where the PlayStation fans are getting upset about. Is like, look, how is it that you're going to try to make this a deep story driven game, but add MMO
Ye-
well,
It
yeah, no,
depends on how
particularly
you,
plus, yeah,
it
and
depends
then
on how you
also
manage
add
it, right?
multiplayer, right? So, I mean,
So
we
if
can tell
you
that this game is long from development, but
if
that's what they're worried about is like you adding other people into the game takes away from the immersion of the single player experience.
Well, it depends on who you co-op with, right? And
Right.
co-op is an option, right? So,
Hmm.
as long as the co-op option doesn't destroy the gameplay mechanics, you can run solo, right? And also, you want to make sure you don't become incredibly OP when you have co-op, right? So, I mean, it still has to be done right. In regards to that, that's one of the reasons why you see Gears always play around with like two, and then last one we saw three, in Gears 3 we saw four-player co-op, right?
Right. Right.
Otherwise it becomes this storm of bullets, right? So you have to balance that stuff out. But the MMO stuff, I mean, that's another thing you balance out, and doesn't mean it's easy, and it can be a challenge, but most of that MMO stuff is it tended to be what they call in-game stuff, right? When you're done with the game, but I still love the game and want to play the game, right? And that's the intent of that, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at Destiny, people do the light level. People don't care about the light level when they're playing the main story. They just don't. You just play the main story. It's a natural progression. You'll unlock stuff along the ways, right? And then what happens is once you finish that, you typically they give you like what they call a little honey-do list. That's what I call it, right? Where you
Good
have multiple
God!
things that you can choose from to do to help with your light level. And because people love the gameplay of that game, they continue to play it and they give them a reason to play it, something to chase after, right?
Hmm.
And I think if you handle the MMO in that fashion, where it's not a function of the main story or the main campaign, but it plays to the natural things of what that game does well, which is the core game mechanics, not throwing deathmatch in there. And what you're essentially doing to keep that game alive, you're giving stuff for people to do in that world that continues to keep them engaged. Um, I think there's something to that. I prefer games with beginning, middle, end. I don't think all games need to be a game as a service, right? And I think we're going to get a flood in the market of that. But at the same token, it is something that, for a big franchise like that, you spend that much money on making a really good campaign. That's awesome. But don't you want to have the option to lower the risk of that by having games as a service thing continue on after the main game? And if you choose not to engage in it, that's up to you. But if it gives other people something to do that they want to do on that game instead of just having to sit on the shelf, I think that's a good thing. I don't follow the logic behind that one if it's done right. If it's not done right, I guess I can understand the fears, but I would really feel like everything they're doing can be done right, and they have a talented enough team to pull it off. So.
Yeah, no, I that's what I'm saying. Just let 100 said this, and I totally agree. Let Guerrilla Games work on the game and stop being afraid of change, because obviously PlayStation wanted to get into this. They seen the benefits of what Xbox is doing with their games, regardless of Metacritic scores and all this and that. The point of the matter is that people are still playing Xbox games while while some of these other games that got highly touted are
Well,
shelfware.
do you think they are just looking at Xbox games, or you think they're looking at own games on their own platform from their third party? They're doing that too,
Well,
right?
no,
Because they see
yeah,
the numbers. They see the numbers. They see
right,
the numbers from the sales, and they see the numbers from the microtransactions that happen afterwards,
exactly. That
right?
was the point. Yes.
Yes, and so they have the data. They don't even have to look at Microsoft to see the data, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you either say they're ahead of the game or behind the game. That's up for you guys to decide. But the reality is they want to lower their risk just like any other publisher when it comes to making their games. And I don't think it would work for every one of their games. Would it work for Uncharted? Probably not. The format doesn't work for that, right? Uncharted would have to totally change, and I can see those sort of reactions being a little more valid in that situation. But if you look at Horizon Zero Dawn, it's a giant open world where you can really, for the most part, go any direction you want, right? And get yourself in trouble. And so all those elements, I don't think conflict with that if it's done correctly. So
Right. No, I totally agree. That's what I'm saying in the sense of, I was just saying like Sony is looking at those games. Not saying but I'm in the sense of they they want their games. They see the benefit of having people continuously stay on their games. The point, you look at the value of a PlayStation game, 3 4 years out compared to an Xbox game. Like I was making the point of, let's say Forza. People are still playing Forza. Forza's I think the cheapest I've seen Forza is been like $30. Um, and that's even with Horizon 3. Like, and then I even seen a price for Halo 5 for $40, which was crazy to me. And I could totally, yeah, I know that you can find it probably on a sale somewhere a lot cheaper, but I seen it the other day was like $40 on CD keys, and you look at the PlayStation game like God of War won Game of the Year, and it was only $10. That's because it didn't have any DLC. It doesn't have anything for anybody to go back to, so it depreciates. So, but when you can go and you can play Halo 5, I mean, we're still playing Halo 5. People are still playing Forza. So it would be smart for them to add the co-op, because you can have people just continuously playing those games, and then you can add the DLC or expansion packs, things of that nature. That's why I think where the MMO aspect
well,
comes to where you build
let's
the
say
characters and things like that. I think that's smart. That's genius.
well, let's say you don't buy the expansion pack. You're that customer who doesn't buy the expansion pack. There's others that do, but
Hmm.
but you don't. But you're always going to remember that $60 you spent and how much value you got out of the game, right?
Right.
So for those that continue to stick with those sort of games and like those sort of things, like I mean, look at Bot. We give him a hard time about Destiny all the time, but the reality, there's no doubt in my mind, he felt like he got the most value out of that $60 purchase
Absolutely.
and those additional purchases that he has made because
Absolutely.
he's we haven't seen him on anything else. All he's been doing is playing that game, and I'm not criticizing him for that. That's just what has happened, and he's happy about that, right? So
Hmm.
that's just how it goes. So
Yeah. Now that's what I'm saying. Like I don't. That's why I didn't understand why there were so many PlayStation fans that were upset about the co-op aspect of it. I understand. I mean, if they I'm sure Sony is smart. The people at Guerrilla Games are smart. They
yeah,
they have the expertise of knowing how to work on a co-op game because of Killzone. But nobody didn't know how they were going to work out a single player game with with how they did it, and it was effective and it worked great. So then they put both two and two together. They know what they're doing. So I have the utmost faith in Guerrilla Games of making a proper game, uh, even with the whole MMO strategy that they want to implement into the game. The point of it is that PlayStation fans has got to get over this mindset that single player experiences is being taken away from them, because I'm sure that they'll still have their single player experience, but they also want gamers to feel like they got plenty out of the game. I think we're at a point now as gamers where we wanna feel like the game that we purchased gave us plenty of value. We
Yep.
understand that, single player games should never go away, but the era of playing, the time where you playing a 10, 15 hour single player experience is done for $60. I think those days are almost out of here. I really do. I
Well,
think
if
that,
that's the only
yeah,
thing you get out of a game, I think people look at the value and they're like, oh,
yeah,
because like people always try to like say like there's no single player experiences on the Xbox side of things. We hear that on the other side, right?
right,
But we have it all the time. We've played Gears, right? That's
right,
a single. I mean, I've really barely touched the multiplayer on that game, and you and I and Delirium all played through the campaign and streamed it on our channels, right? And
yeah.
had a phenomenal time. That game looks amazing.
It
And
was
then
fun.
you know we Halo 5. I mean, how many times have we played through that campaign? Let alone all the other Halos that we're gonna do. Which, by the way, everyone that's watching us live, me and K Meg are gonna start streaming, going through the campaign in Reach. So,
On
uh, s-
Legendary, yeah.
on Legendary, so you guys can witness that, and then we'll play probably ODST, or I'll give it a break, and then we'll go into ODST. But those are campaign experiences, right? That people talk about Halo and they talk about the multiplayer all the time. How many times people play through the campaign? They do it all the time. So I mean, I think that one-dimensional game, you just get one element of it and that's it.
Hmm.
That part's going away. But it doesn't mean it's going to ruin the campaign experiences for people. I don't think it threatens that. I think if anything, it's going to add more to it on the back end, or you're going to get another mode sort of approach, like when you start talking about like horde modes, and you start talking about PV multiplayer against one another. PvP is what it is. So you'll be getting a little bit of everything. So I just I don't see that being an issue. I really don't. So
No, I don't either. I really don't. It sounds interesting. Like you said, like I mean, I can't wait to get an opportunity to play the game if they're going to do it like this. And I mean, of course, the game is in early development, so some things could be scrapped. But no, go for it. Like I mean, that's what you want. Look, there's people that still play Bloodborne because of the multiplayer aspect of it. So why would not some of these people think that Horizon Zero Dawn would be affected if they go that same type of route? And especially if you make a bigger world than what the first Horizon Zero Dawn was. I don't get it. I really don't. So, all right, good point, good point. All right, so uh, got two
The
more, and so which one you
Done.
want? You want to talk to Halo next, or you want to do or you want to do Halo last?
hey, you're still the host, man. I'm
Okay,
just the one that hits the button
all
and
right, all
pulls the
right,
levers. So you're good
okay,
to go.
all right. So let's go ahead and talk about Halo, man. And you've been quite adamant about how you feel about the new look of Halo Infinite. And as for me, I mean, I don't care so much about the look. It's more for me the the so-called hardcore fan that's trying to dictate progress, and that to me is a problem. But there's been some leaks about what Halo Infinite could be coming into the future, and it's very interesting. It sounds awesome. It sounds great. Of course, there were some people that have complained, which I thought that was kind of crazy. But I'm gonna go ahead and read some of this stuff to you, and I want to get your take on it because when I did read it to you after the show, you there
What?
was, you was having some issues, not with everything, but
I don't
just
know
a
what you're
one.
talking about.
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and let's read this. All right. So for Halo Infinite, they're saying that there will be 25 main missions, totaling into 20-hour campaign, and it will be an additional 15 hours and 35 overall missions when you include the side mission.
Okay.
So it's totaling so the hourly campaign with the side missions will be a total of 35 hours. The
Which
con Yeah,
or
yeah.
which is already remind me of ODST.
ODST?
from a structure standpoint, right?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
like the main hub world, and then you're working to different areas, and you unlock a bunch of side missions, right? Like
Right.
that's how the structure of that game is. So that if there's any truth to that being the rumor, it reminds me like that inspiration from that. So there's precedence in Halo for that. So
You're cutting out a little. You're cutting out a little bit in and out. Don.
oh, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm just saying there's precedence for that happening in ODST,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how the structure is. It's kind of like a hub world that you go to certain destinations, and when you go to those certain destinations, you unlock a mission, right? And it's like a little side mission, and it tells the story of another individual, like a fallen individual, and you're trying to get the team together essentially to figure out what happened there. So,
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I got you. Okay. All right. So as I continue, there was the let's see, content, not including collectibles, Easter eggs, or other hidden goods. Skulls return and are holdable, just like in Halo 3. 25 main missions all feature Chief as the playable character. Um, Now this is where it gets interesting. I think we already knew that it was going to be Chief heavy. So it says side missions are unlocked when beating a main mission and feature a different playable character, as they take place concurrently with the mission that unlocks them. Well, like you said, ODST.
hmm
The main mission can unlock anywhere from 0 to 3 side missions. All missions, main and side, will be launchable from the main menu at any time after unlocking them. So you don't have to worry about missing a side mission if you journey ahead. The featured characters that will be in the side missions include Kelly, Linda, Fred, Jerome, Alice, Douglas, Palmer, Locke, Buck, Vale, Tanaka, Arbiter, Atriox, Lavore. I think that's how you say his name, right?
just keep on going with it.
Lavore, Lavelle. Okay, whatever. It's that
I'm
elite.
gonna let you, what do you say? Let you be country.
Let me be country.
Yeah,
Let me be country.
you get your country out. I
Let,
didn't correct you. You go for it.
Levior.
Hey,
I don't know. Let me be country. Let
listen
me be
here.
country.
You go, girl.
Uh, uh, yeah, I'm snapping my fingers right now. All right. So after beating the campaign, you will unlock a new mode called Exploration Mode,
All right.
which lets you explore the open world environments without being restricted to the campaign. As your multiplayer Spartans 2, the locations include Installation 7, Installation 04C, the Ark, Earth, and Reach, which sounds Destiny esque to me, as well as one more location I won't mention as it'll be a huge spoiler for the main story. Playable elites return to the multiplayer with full armor customization, along with introductions to playable brutes. However, brute customization is limited, and how elite customizations work in Reach. Wreck weapons and vehicles will not return in Halo Infinite, except for a select few. But they will be live on. But what will be live is weapon skins instead of weapon skins supporting guns. Most notably, Sworn and Northfang. I'm glad I didn't mess that up like I did last night. Northfang, and which will be used by Kelly and Linda respectfully. All right, so there you have it. So what do you think?
Uh, uh, yeah. I feel like that's a bunch of rumors just compiled together. To be honest with you, if there's any sort of truth, they probably mixed it up with some fake stuff just so they didn't get themselves in trouble. But um, it just sounds like a wish list. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, um, and I don't know if I can take that one that much seriously. To be honest with you,
You don't
um,
think so? You don't think so?
no,
I
I
take
don't think
this.
so.
I take this to be. I think this is a this. I think this is 80% factual. I really do because it makes perfect sense. Give the people what they want. Now, hey, now, Kiki and them made it clear. Bonnie Ross and them also, they all made it clear that Halo Infinite is is the next story after Halo 5. So they're not rebooting it. This
No.
isn't. Yeah, the story is still going to continue. If you
Besides
played
the
it,
aesthetics, they rebooted back to retro,
right,
but yeah,
right,
go
but
ahead.
the story stays the same, and everything between Halo Wars 2 and from Halo 5, all will be implemented into Infinite. It's just that Chief is going to be just the main protagonist in the main story. But where I also believe is that they want to get this story out. They just kind of want to cater to the so-called hardcore Halo fans and get them to be where they'll be happy with just to play with with Master Chief, and then have these side missions, which makes perfect sense. Now, of course, Blue Team, uh, you know what I'm saying, Blue Team, Team Osiris, they have to be in the game. They have to be in the game if they're going to continue the story of from coming from Halo 5. They have to be. And Red Team is going to have to be involved some way, shape, or form on top of what we've seen in Halo Wars 2. So I believe 80% of it. Now, when you get into the multiplayer aspect, now they already confirmed that there wasn't going to be rec packs, which is very disappointing for me. I love the whole rep pack system, but it but when it comes to that, that's why I give it why I got the 20% saying I don't believe so much about the multiplayer because it didn't mention anything about Warzone, and Warzone has to be a part of what Halo done. It's too successful. People are still
Just
playing
because,
Warzone.
well, just because someone lets it out of a rumor mill doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. That part
Just
with the
because you don't,
multiplayer, I don't believe.
yeah, just because you haven't talked about it doesn't mean it exists. Yeah, here's the thing. What it sounds like, it literally, and maybe it's exactly true. Like I don't know. I do have some friends over at 343. They are not telling me anything. They know how I feel about some of the decisions on Halo,
Hmm.
and they keep telling me just have faith. Just wait. Just wait until we show something. And I'm not digging. I don't want to dig because that's a lot of people's jobs. That's a lot of people's hard work over a long period of time.
Hmm.
I don't want to know unless I've worked on it. I really don't want to know what's going on until it's time in respect to what those guys do. But man, if you look at that rumor list, it looks like you're like, what works already? Well, Destiny works, and what works in the Halo universe? Well, this kind of ODST structure, and let's what do we do with these people? Well, we just shove them in here. That's what it sounds like on the description, and maybe they did go this route. Maybe we'll see. Well, I mean, we'll see a little less than a month from now, right?
Hmm.
What's going on with Halo, but yeah, I there's nothing there to get me excited. To be perfectly honest with you, there's nothing there in that rumor. If there's any truth to it, to makes me go, well, I'm excited for Halo Infinite, and I'm not a naysayer on Halo. I'm not, Megan knows this about me. Is I'm very much as somebody that prefers Halo, and prefers all the genres that happens there, but I just want the game to evolve in a way that it doesn't lose its core, and I don't want to go retro. Those are the things that I'm primarily concerned about. And until we get 100% confirmation on that stuff, I just don't know what to think about it yet. So,
Okay, so okay, when you say retro, explain.
well, from an ability standpoint, and from an aesthetic standpoint. So the aesthetics on the Halo, like we've talked about this, like even with random people in the party chat, and
Hmm.
they say, "Oh, everyone loves the new look of Halo Infinite." Nope, not everybody. I'm one of those. I don't like the new look of the Halo Infinite. I think they did a really good job art-wise, but I don't like the art style. I feel like the art style is a digression to what we've already seen before in the two and the threes. It's just higher fidelity, um, versus seeing a progression where the armor and the Spartans go from Halo 5. I want to. I don't want. I don't even want them to be like Halo 5. I want to evolve from where where we left off of Halo 5, and we're not getting that. We're getting something a little bit more retro from an aesthetic standpoint. I think that's one of the criticisms when people say they don't see the difference, the next generation difference. A lot of it is because of art direction. It's not because of what they put on the screen. Well, it is, but not by the lack of talent putting it on the screen. It's by conscious decisions they did with the art style, and I'm just not digging it. And then it makes you question if they're going to have abilities. Now, there's some positive news out there. Looks like the abilities are still there, but we'll see what form factor that's going to take going forward. But I love running. I love the clamor. I love the dash. I love the ground pound. I love all those abilities, and that's something a certain part of the Halo community does complain about. And if those abilities are not there, I'm guaranteeing I won't pick up the game. I won't even play it. I won't even try it.
Uh, that I have to agree with you. If they remove um, real life human abilities, like I mean, if how is it that you're supposed to feel Chief is a superior being if he can't run? You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I get it with Halo 1 through 3, because even in 4 and Reach, they had abilities to use to where they can run. But if they go back to that, to where that you have to get some kind of ability to run, then then that would be absurd. Because they've already opened the game to where it's more fluid, it feels good. And even if you take that away and then they sped the game up, but you can't have the motion to sprint. I'm right there with you. I feel like that'd be a disgusting step backwards and a fail, and it'd be all for to appease the so-called Halo fans that don't support Halo now.
yeah,
You
and
see what I'm saying? So that's what's crazy to me.
you don't want to piss off the people that got you there, right? Like I get
Right,
that, but
right,
there's a certain people that are not going to go with you no matter what you do.
right.
And that's a hard thing to balance. I don't, you know, the success of Halo is its own enemy sometimes. In regards to that, so I get where 343 is actually at on that sort of stuff. But the same token, I just don't want if I'm concerned about certain decisions there, and the aesthetic uh, that they gone for makes me think, man, whew, are they going back? And then what also is going to be irritating, like they did this with 4, right?
Mhm.
With Halo 1 and 2, you know why Master Chief got the new armor, right? And,
Right.
and this is kind of a silly thing, but it's a thing, right? His armor upgrades as he goes through his path and his story, right? You know why that exists. There was supposed to be a reason given in 4. We never got the reason. There's some sort of vague thing that Cortana said I upgraded you, but how is she gonna upgrade his armor when he's in stasis, right? It
Right.
doesn't make any sense there. But you did see that evolution. You saw that evolution with all the Spartans in regards to that. In Halo 5, it stayed kind of stagnant. You saw more of that evolution on Team Osiris. I felt than you
Yeah.
saw on on Chief, which is fine. In regards to that, he even hinted at that he's going to change even more at the end of 5 because his visor's cracked, and Hosley said something and stuff like that. So even if you are going to be retro looking version of that, they have to explain that. Like they can't just like brush it aside, right? Like you have to have a basic thing like whatever Cortana was, can hack, Chief, and this, the only way to do it is, go something that, that she wasn't involved with or anything like that, which she wasn't plugged into in his armor or something along those lines,
Hmm.
to make him a little bit more less vulnerable to her or something like that. But even then, I still want to see progression. I mean, can you imagine what Locke would look like in the style that we're seeing so far? I don't think he would look good. Uh,
No,
you know,
absolutely not. No, no.
so these are legitimate concerns, and like I don't know, I always look forward to where games progress, right? Where things kind of continue to grow, and I love seeing growth from one continuous story throughout. I really do love seeing that. And so, for one of my favorite franchises, not to see that evolution happen in more of a flashback, it's just seriously, it's disappointing. I mean, it's just what it comes right down to. Just like how you'd be disappointed if Locke is all of a sudden disappears from the story, right? Like, don't take him away. You introduced him. You put all this work and effort into him. We want to see where Locke goes. We want to see where Team Osiris goes. We want to see where Red Team goes now that we introduced them in Halo Wars. We want to see all that stuff kind of continue to move on. um, in regards to that. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. I'm trying to stay reserved. I'm putting the work into Halo 5 so I can hit that 152 because there's supposed to be something special in
Right.
Infinite, and I don't want to lose on that opportunity because I'm pretty far along um, in Halo 5. But yeah, I mean, they have to win me over. I'm not going to talk crap about it. You're not going to see me on Twitter say it's going to suck or anything like that because I don't know. But I have reservations. I'm not automatically giving them the win. I'm not automatically saying it's going to be crap because everyone says it because it's an unpopular thing to say with when because of Halo 5. I'm just going to say that it's we'll see, and I have questions. I guess is the best thing where I'm at right now. So
Right. No, I mean, I think we all have questions. Um, it's just one of those things, though, that you have to, um, the concern. I think your concerns are very valid. Now, the one question I have to ask you with this is that is how how are they going to make Chief disappear? I mean, like, I just, I mean, do you think that it's if will it
oh,
be?
so you wanted me to give my theory that I threw out last night? Is that what you want
Yeah,
me to
I
do?
do. I do. Because this is how I look at this, right?
What's this walking in the sunset moment? Is what you're saying?
Right, right. Like, yeah, like when is Chief going to get his walking in the sunset moment? Because um, if you know, there's quite a few people that's played God of War. If you play God of War, then you kind of understand that this is going to be the end of Kratos' saga. Um, don't know exactly when, but you know it's going to come to an end. Um, will 343 be too afraid to make that decision, or do you think that they have no choice but to do it? Because I mean, if you want to progress the story can't progress off of just one character. It has to keep going in order to be a saga. And this is my opinion. This is me talking. In order for it to be to get to have other players be looked at and loved or hated. It's just that's just the way with any and everything. I mean, you look at shows like Game of Thrones. Everybody, I think, for the most part, loved Jon Snow, but when they killed him, it caused a lot of heat. They brought his ass back, but he wasn't the same Jon Snow. You know what I'm saying? But it also, while Jon Snow was gone, it gave other opportunities for other actors and actresses to get the spotlight. So again,
Well, we
what are
had
they going to
that
do?
break. That's what's
Yeah,
crazy, right? So
yeah,
we've already
yeah,
had
yeah,
it in Halo. So we had it after Halo 3.
yeah.
Unless you finished it on Legendary, you didn't get the Legendary ending where you realize he's still alive, and they left it kind
Hmm.
of open-ended. But everyone else thought he was dead. Everyone thought he was gone, right? And so it allowed him to do Reach, and no one criticized not playing Chief on Reach. No one criticized not playing Chief on ODST, and all those characters had the similar personality of the Chief, where it was really vague, and what they did from what they did from there is just kind of left it open ended. Um, so now that the Chiefs back, and we want to see what happened from 4 to 5, I get you. I really, really think it's a sacrifice moment the Chiefs gonna have to kind of kill him off, right?
Hmm.
And my thought process was, how the Didact was able to digitize his people, and then
Hmm.
came back as what do they call it? Not the they're not the Fallen. They're the
Forerunners.
I don't know. I call them the robot ladybugs, right? Those little things, the knights and all those sort of
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that. Basically that's them digitally reconstructed, and they turn into because they were corrupt, right?
Hmm.
I can see that perfection. I see Cortana perfecting that and turning Chief digital. I mean, that's where I see the in-game kind of going, because let's be honest, Cortana is a little obsessed right now.
Right.
She wants Chief, right? And so something like that would be, the great sacrifice to, basically, you know, take care of that threat from the Cortana side of things, right? And so that's what I see. I see maybe them turning Chief digital. Maybe be an unpopular thought or anything like that. But just like how you saw the Didact did it with his people, I can see them doing that with Chief. And that would be the next evolution. And at that point, you can't really bring him back in the same physical form anymore. You know what I mean? You can have an excuse not to have the same voice actor anymore. And I know a lot of people love Steve, but Steve's got other things to do. He's not getting younger himself,
I was
right?
gonna say he's an older
Yeah,
guy himself. Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly. So I mean, he started doing this stuff when he was our age, right? So
right.
like to be in the voice. So imagine where he's at today. So, and I'm sure he loves the character, but there will come a time where you have to retire him or put the spotlight on other people in the universe. And so I think that you have to have a good send off for Chief in order to do that. I don't know if it's going to happen in Halo Infinite um, in regards to that, but we'll see. We'll see. I want to play the other Spartans. I want to play the other characters. I want to explore more of the world. And yeah, I do want to see Chief's conclusion, but I want him to be concluded, and so we can move on. So.
Right. I mean, I think it's only fair. Listen, I mean, it's not, what I'm saying, and I understand that, I'll get some of this when I post this on YouTube later on
Hmm.
this week, but it's going to come to where you're a hater of Chief. I'm not a hater of Chief. I love Chief. Chief is one of my favorite iconic characters of all time. It's just the point that you you can't look at Chief like a Mario brother. He's not Mario or Luigi. It's when you want to have a serious story, eventually something tragic. It has to happen. I mean, just look at the evolution of Gears. When Dom got passed on, there was a lot of people that liked Dom. There's going to be some kind of crazy situation that's going to happen in the next Gears, uh, where I think that there's going to be even more sacrifice since the Queen has returned. So it's like there's so much.
Oh shoot! You just played through the end of the gears. There's a sacrifice.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. I'm just saying that's
Yeah,
the
we,
point.
we, we don't
Yeah,
we don't have, we don't have to talk about it, but
right, right, right.
there's a.
It's two major sacrifices, but that's the thing though. For me, I think for great storytelling, there has to be great loss. There has to be great
Mhm.
struggle, and maybe and like we've said about Halo 5 with how its story is structured, I didn't have a problem with the story in the sense of the character of how the characters was included and things like that. It was just it's basically the misleading thoughts of how uh, Team Osiris, or as you say, Locke against Chief, how that was all played out. Their messaging was awful. It was all over the place. It didn't give people the right thought process. They shouldn't have named it Halo
I think they
5. They should have just called it Halo Guardians, just kind of like they did with Reach and ODST, and a lot of people would have had a
here's
lot more
here
respect
here's
for it.
here's the big problem with Halo 5 had was they didn't give you enough lock or chief.
No.
Right? Like so they didn't give you enough time to really get into lock, right? In, where he is different, where he's similar to Chief, right? What's the motivation, right?
Yeah, what's his
Uh,
true background, things
yeah,
like that.
what
Right.
what drives him to do what he does and makes his decisions. And they didn't give you enough for Chief, right? Like so, I looked at Halo 5 like the biggest downfall is they should have just primarily focused on one side and left the rest a mystery, right?
Hmm.
And they still can introduce new characters. If they want to play as Chief the whole entire time, cool. If that was their decision, I can respect that. And if they wanted to play as Osiris the whole entire time, and you're this other person going after Chief, and it keeps it a mystery why Chief's making decisions because you only know half the story. I think that would have been way more compelling. And you also got to remember all the side characters they're throwing out. They thrown out a bunch of stuff without. They kind of did the DC thing, right? Like when DC
Hmm.
did the Justice League,
Right.
they threw a whole bunch of stuff together, and like you're not invested in a lot of the characters, right? And so it felt
Because you don't
rushed.
know them, right?
You
Yeah.
felt rushed, right? But if you look compare it to Marvel, right? They have origin stories. You learn this, you learn that, and eventually they all come together, right? So it has that depth and that investment in it. And And, that's what Halo 5 suffered from because he threw a bunch of stuff all at once at people, and they just couldn't, there was a couldn't digest things, right? And weren't questions that were answered, and there was other things that they were answering questions that people didn't have questions to, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, I and then again, I don't dislike Halo 5. I would say that's its only real downfall, and and I think they're self-aware of that. I will say that I think they are very self-aware of the storytelling on the new Halo, and that's the one thing I'm not worried about.
Right, me neither. Me neither.
I think they're gonna nail that,
Yeah, that's why I believe that it's
whatever
a
the
20
form factor
25
is.
about a 20 25 hour campaign to go in full detail to kind of tell the story of what's going on with pretty much uh, Cortana. Uh, Probably give a better
I
backstory
I've been
with Kilo
told
Cyrus and
I've been
everybody else.
told it's longer than any Halo game ever.
Yeah,
That's what I've
that
been
makes
told.
sense.
So we'll
Right.
we'll see if that one I do believe, right? So,
Hmm.
is it that form factor? I don't know. We'll see. But I've been told it's one of the longest Halos ever. So
Well, I mean, I've have heard from all different types of people that it was going to be an open world game. So if it's locked into the story mode where you can't unlock it until after you beat the story, I think that's another smart thing too. Kind of bring back that old way of playing games to where it's where if if you want to get to a certain thing, a certain point to the game, you have to earn it. Like I do miss with fighters now, even though I love the fact that we have like DLC packs and things like that to where they expand the world. But the one thing I do hate is that you can't earn those characters anymore. Like you could just fight and just have to beat this individual story in order to unlock them. I would hope that fighter games could try to get back to that, but I hope a lot of other games will do that same thing of kind of like that's why I kind of believe that it makes sense. But yeah, beat the story, get that open world open so people can get uh into getting more information about the other characters. That's why I do believe that. But either way, I'm not worried about the story either. I think the story is going to be fantastic. It's the it's what you pointed out, which was the, the movements, the powers. Um, don't take those away. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you start off with Chief where he don't have them and he has to gradually get them, that
I'm
sucks.
well, I'm
But
fine. I'm fine with that because that gives
yeah,
a sense of progression. I mean, how many times have
right,
you done that in a Metroid game? And that
right,
I mean, where
right.
she loses all her abilities and then you have to gain them back, and like
Mhm.
that. That's fine. In regards to that, but you better make sure that first ability is run. If you take that
Thank
away,
you.
I'll be pissed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I mean, I'm gonna. I mean, K-Mega will probably stick with it, but he'll probably tie a rubber band around his controller and then walk away and then come back, like
Right.
sort of thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I is
uh,
yeah. I'm just not. I'm yeah. You got. I mean, if anything, I want a bit more abilities, right? If it makes sense, right? Like if it doesn't
right.
break the mechanics of the game, right? You want to continue to have that, that people always have a hard time when I say this, but that almost that fire element where you have all these things that you're trying to tip the scale in your favor, right? You're on the defense, offense, throwing a grenade, shooting the person, dashing. You're always doing something to help tip the scale because someone else may get the jump on you, right? And I think that's really one of the core mechanics of Halo. And as long as the newer abilities or the tweaks of the abilities favor that sort of, I'll be in a good spot if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Um, the online aspect of it is probably the more confusing than anything. I mean, it doesn't make sense for them not to have Warzone. Um, Warzone. I don't even know anybody that has a problem with the multiplayer at all. To be honest with you, I
Mhm.
thought the format of how they did it, having all those different modes, things like that. I don't see anything wrong with that except for the rec packs. I enjoyed the rec packs, but of course, the people with the microtransaction police. They want to take that away. It had the perfect balance. I think Jazzy Noob said that in the chat. I totally agree with that. So I guarantee you there'll be somebody complaining about some because if somebody does get the Arbiter sword, uh, what I think it was called Oath Sworn. If they get that
It's
sword and they're OP and they kill like 10 people in a row, oh, you gotta do that. Listen, you asked for this. When just when if you had the rec packs where you had the perfect balance, if somebody came with you with that sword, they might kill 3 or 4 people. But if you got the right weapon to stop them, say let's say the saw,
mhm.
you know what I'm saying, upgraded saw, he's toast.
It
So
was
you know what
it's
I'm saying.
always
That's the
it's
thing.
always balanced, right? Like
Yeah, it's always perfect. Halo 5 is perfectly balanced.
yeah, I mean, like how many times, like, 'cause you're now starting getting into what is that, Super Fiesta, right? You're now
Yeah,
starting. It's kind of came as a guilty pleasure right now because you hated
it
it at
is
first.
actually. It is.
Uh,
I
so,
hated it.
but I what I love about Super Fiesta is when you get a pistol, you're like, damn it, I did not win the lotto when I respawned, right?
Hmm.
And the next thing you know, someone has a rocket launcher, and you're still able to take them out because you out think to your component that you're going up against because there was a reaction. There was a possible reaction to everything they threw at you, and you were able to maneuver the situation into your favor. Is huge. Oh, Jazzy Noob, thanks for the embers there, buddy. Um, that sort of thing is, I think, huge, and in that sort of element where you're like, hey, I just took that guy out of a pistol, that sort of thing, and I think the balance is really there, but they're gonna have to tweak it. You can't still play 100% the same, right? They're gonna have to tweak some stuff on the new one, just to have it play a little bit different. So
Yeah, I think you gotta. I think this is how we look at how we look at embers now. When people give us embers, we have to look at it like a super chat. And I know that you haven't
yeah,
done a live show, so
so
we're
yeah,
gonna have to.
you're still the host, so go for it.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. So Jazzy Noob, thank you for the embers. And he says, and rec packs required you to build your energy level before you could use it. And he's right. Like that's what I'm saying. It made the perfect balance because there have been times where I could hear from your background that you level 7 Rex available. Well, I'm at level 3 because I got killed by some stupid grunt or something.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so you would have the badass weapon, and so I would still have to wait, or I have to probably get some, a lesser weapon and try to make it work.
or I spawn a badass warhog and you hop on the back and you get the kills, right? And then all of a
Right,
sudden it's helping both of us, right? So
right.
I think Warzone's not going away. I think a lot of people liked Warzone. I think it needs a refresher. It needs some evolution. I don't know where I would evolve it. Maybe more enemy types, maybe
More
smarter
more
enemy
enemy
types.
taps, more maps for sure.
Yeah, the maps were it got a little stale. What was it, like three of them or something like that?
Yeah, it's like 3. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is an issue in regards to that. I would like more verticality to the maps, where
Hmm.
you have areas where vehicles can't get to, and you only have to use weapons. Does that make sense? In
Right.
certain areas that that really play stronger to vehicles. I want more of a division in the maps, and that can be done via verticality. Those are the things I would like to see in regards to that. But then again, I'm trusting in that stuff in the hands of 343. I know quite a few people that work there, and you know, I believe in them on a lot of fronts. I just don't know with the decisions of the abilities and stuff like that. That's a big concern of mine in the art direction. There's only two gripes I have really. So
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's not that many gripes I have for the multiplayer. Um, I'm not the fan of all the modes, but they're all necessary, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, continue to give the mode for the nostalgic player that don't like to run or use powers, and they want to do it old school. That's great. Good for you. Um, and also, keep Breakout, which is Newark's. Newark was a beast at that. I think he ranked in the top 100 in Breakout. Like he was ridiculous in that mode. And then just keep the
we need to
progression.
do that mode more. To be honest with you,
Ugh,
it's rough, man. But we gotta gotta dig your heels in, man. Gotta
Ugh.
sterner stuff, man.
I'm not the best at that mode, but I will not deny that. But I but it's enjoyable. Now, of course, I do love the Slayer and big team battle things like that. Uh, yeah, but everything else just add more maps. I know that they added a lot of Forge maps. I can't imagine what Forge will be like now compared to what the Forge is, especially now since it's going to be
Crossplay
uh,
with
cross
PC.
play and on
You know,
PC. Like that's going to be sick. And because if people didn't know that Halo 5 is not on PC at all, I think
it is.
that's how would you say?
It is, but not in the form factor you're thinking.
Well, no, well, only Forge is
Yeah,
on PC, but the
and you
game itself is not
and
on
you
PC.
yeah, and you can play private matches within Forge, but
Yeah,
to test it and stuff like that. So yeah,
right.
it is on PC in that sense. So like a real light version of it.
Yeah.
Um, kind of almost like was that Forza that was kind of like a spin-off on PC before they
Oh
start
yeah,
doing.
Apex or whatever.
Yeah, Forza Apex.
Yeah.
That it was good. It's basically a certain motorsport, get reduced in regards to that. It's fine,
Mm,
but I think the Ford. I mean, that's number one thing because like I operate in these tools, right? Like I sometimes I'm in Unity, but most of the time I'm in Unreal Engine, working 3DCO Max, working ZBrush, working all these software programs to create assets and then adjusting these assets within game environments and there's nothing more frustrating than not having a keyboard and mouse making a level. It is one of the most frustrating things. Even though they do a good job with just having a controller, it's just a better tool for that sort of stuff. So um, they have Forge at launch, which that's another thing they have to address. They have to have like they can have post-launch content, but they need to have the things that people expect from Halo ready at launch. Otherwise, you shouldn't release the game yet. To be honest with you,
yeah, I do it. I agree with that. I agree
yeah,
with
because
that.
like when Halo 5 first came out, they didn't have big team battle available. They didn't
No, they
have
didn't. Mm-mm.
these other elements that people that are staples within Halo. So you got to have that stuff ready at launch. If you want to do some more ambition things that are newer for that community down the road, yeah, I say go for it. But those are your post-launch stuff. The stuff that people expect from Halo, you got to have that stuff ready. So
Okay. All right. One last question, and then we'll move on to the last topic of the day. What uh battle royale mode for Halo Infinite or no?
yeah, are they gonna do it or
I mean,
not?
would you want it? Would you want it? Yes or no?
It just depends. It depends on how much they're trying to squeeze in, and if it's going to take away
Well, if
or
it's an open,
add.
if Halo's going to be an open world, I mean, it makes the perfect atmosphere.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if it's going to add or take away is the real question, right?
Well, true.
To the experience. So if like they're done with everything else and they're going to throw this other mode in, and say you don't drop it as a Spartan, you drop it as like an ODST or something like that, right? Where you don't quite have all the abilities. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? And it makes sense
Right.
why you're scavenging for stuff. Then cool. And they would have to do it in their own Halo way. But would it drive me to buy the game or would it win me over? I would care less if it was there or not. But would it make it relevant in the streaming community? It would have impact there for sure if they did it right and it was a success. So it just depends.
Okay. Just depends. All right. All right. Cool. All right. Last topic, and then we'll get out of here. Okay. So this is kind of just a random topic. I ran into this. I was in some forums, and I seen this. It was a cool. It was a place that diehard PlayStation fan,
Hmm.
and he asked a legitimate question, and it wasn't anything crazy or anything like that. But he asked this question of which, as a diehard PlayStation fan, um, what game or games would you consider buying an Xbox or by buying a Series X? Uh, what games would they be? What games they would have to be in order for you to 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 to
To
buy
win you
another console to
to
win
win
you
you
over
over.
or to
Gotcha.
yeah, things like that. So those you know what I'm saying it doesn't have to be just one game. It could be multiple games. And I'll tell you exactly because there was quite a few. PlayStation fans that answered the questions, and there were some games that completely shocked me. But I'll tell you the majority of the games that they talked about. But what games do you think that would be the games that would win the
I
bet?
don't know. I mean, they have the main staples on the Xbox side. They keep iterating on those, and if they're not winning them over already, I mean, it would have to be something totally
Well,
different,
let me just
right?
give you a hint. There were
Like, like,
older
like
Xbox
Cameo,
games.
maybe
Uh,
Cameo. I can see people talking about that one. I can
mhm,
see people talking about Blue Dragon on the RPG side of things.
mhm.
Trying to think of some of Mech Assault that would appeal more to the PC crowd than the PlayStation crowd, but I can see that being one. Um, Outside of that, I maybe Perfect Dark, but I don't think that's really going to drive them to that platform. Um, yeah, I actually would be a complete loss. So what was the list?
Okay, so it was everybody had quite a few answers, but the most I'll start with number five. Number five was Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay,
Okay, so that was KOTOR, which I I would love to see that happen for me, but
I
I
don't
mean
see that being
I
exclusive going forward.
that's
That would
that's the
be a
point.
multi. Yeah, that would be a
Right, that'd be a
multi-plat. Right.
multi-plat,
Yeah.
which would be sucked. I mean, but I mean, Microsoft got the money to make it an exclusive, but you also got to take
Well,
for what Phil said. Phil's was like, hey, look, I mean, you kind of want to get the game, get games out to everybody. So, but KOTOR was,
I would say the owner of that property would not go for an exclusive on any platform.
yeah, Disney definitely. Well, I mean, Disney did it with Spider-Man, but hey,
That's a
that's
different. It's a different situation.
right, and they're still
Precursor.
talking
So
about Spider-Man 2 might be multi-plat at a certain point in time. So who knows? We don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. But KOTOR was pretty interesting. Number four was Mass Effect, which is another game that
it
is
would be multi-plat at that point.
wouldn't be multi-plat. Yeah,
So
because it was
basically,
much
they're
bigger now.
saying if it wasn't multi-plat and it was part of the old days and it was only on their
Xbox, right,
Xbox, gotcha.
right.
Okay.
Um, Jade Empire, which nobody hasn't talked about in a long time, but I mean, Jade Empire was a great game.
Well, I think
Um,
Jade Empire comes up like KOTOR
Me too.
does.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Right.
so it comes up. People talk about it. It's just I've never experienced it to be honest with you. So I only know it from people bringing it up here and there. Um, but yeah, I mean that has a huge following for sure.
Right. And then number two, Fable. Now,
Really?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
they were pretty adamant about Fable, because there was coming that still didn't believe that Fable is coming. They think that Xbox guys are going crazy about it and just making it up just to try to get people to think about it. But uh, uh, as Dude said, we'll be over the PS. We could do that too after we get done with this. Uh, but yeah, Fable was number two, which threw me off. I was like, whoa, I mean, but that's a game right there. So Xbox could be very excited about that to get over some PlayStation fans, because I mean, Fable is pretty much the the secret that just keeps letting us know that it's coming. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay.
I think
So
Fable's in a weird spot to be honest with you. Look,
what do you mean?
well, we know there's a new Fable coming, right?
Right, right.
I think if they reboot it to something different,
Hmm.
like not the humor, the things that are kind of like stereotypically Fable, if you know what I mean, and they take a little more serious tone with it, I think people may have an issue with the new version of it, right? If they take a little more serious tone, and then I feel like if they kind of stay to the whimsical elements, that people are going to be like, well, it's just another one of those games. I think Fable's in a really difficult spot to be honest with you, as a franchise.
I don't know. I think if
I mean, it's
I,
happening regardless. Like the game is
right,
happening. Just
right.
so you guys know, like it's a real thing. Even though it's one of the worst kept secrets out there. Like I'm
I
fully confident it's coming.
I
But
I think that Fable is. I think personally, this is just my opinion on it. I think that Fable is going to be more Witcher esque than it is going to be campy and funny.
I mean,
I
that's possible. I mean,
I think that I think they'll have moments of being funny. I mean,
but
especially if they're going to keep the
the
elements of having cameras and
problem
stuff like that. But I think
the
it's
problem
going
is
to be
that
more
that that
serious.
that does split the community that likes that sort of game. That will divide them.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, so I just don't know how that's going to be received. Um, that's what I
Right.
wonder. So
Oh, well, I don't know. All right. Well, that was number two. Now, number one, I've said this game before, and when I saw it, I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Okay." Can you guess? It's an old Xbox classic from Xbox One. I've said this game's name before, but
I can't. It's not Marlo Briggs. What is it?
no, Marlo Briggs came on 360. It's Atagi.
Never played it.
It's a great game. It's kind of like Niho and
Oh, really?
yeah, it's kind of like that. It's made from software, but it was an Xbox exclusive. There was that threw me completely off because I was because I've talked about that game before that Xbox should make that game again. Uh, you know, work out a deal with From Software and have that game make a comeback, put it in the Dark Souls esque or Bloodborne esque type game and let it rip. And you know what I'm saying, and have it available. I that's those type of games are really popular. I mean, they're not for everybody for sure,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, you just look at what happened with how you say that game, Sarinko, or I don't know. Let me be country on that game. The game that won Game of the Year last year. Um, that's kind of like a Tagi. It's just that it's an much older game. It's into the whole Japanese lore. But yeah, that was the number one requested game. There was a other couple of mentions of war. There was Blue Dragon. There was Lost Odyssey. Um, what was the other game? Oh, Banjo Kazooie. Um, and then there was another game. I can't remember what that game was. That was kind of like whatever. But yeah, but those were the top five games that the PlayStation fans would say, hey, look, they'll run back to Xbox or they'll buy an Xbox. Where the PlayStation would be their primary console, but but they would buy the Xbox for that game. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would surprise now retroactively thinking about this. I'm surprised Ninja Gaiden didn't come up.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It didn't. I mean,
I
see,
know.
that's the difference between Xbox fans and PlayStation fans. You know what I'm saying? Because we
Yeah,
have a
that's
whole yeah.
true.
Because I mean, there's a whole bunch of list of games that I would have picked. Uh, that I would thought. Now I would have definitely put Lost Odyssey. I would have thought like Lost Odyssey or Blue Dragon would be in at least the
Yeah,
top
like
three, but
yeah, because
they
that's
weren't.
yeah. I would thought that I didn't even enjoy those games last generation, and obviously there's an audience for every game. To be clear, just because I don't like some doesn't mean it's not a good game, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but I'm surprised. That wasn't one. That just seems like that would appeal to that user base. So yeah, it's interesting. That's good
Yeah.
information. I like seeing stuff like that because I'm always trying to relate to other gamers, right? I can only look at it from my rose-tinted lenses of what I like and what I enjoy and what inspires me as a creator, as a developer, and it's interesting to see certain things. And there's always some games that are a complete mystery why people enjoy them. But I'm always that's why I like hearing valid opinions about things, right? I want to hear
Hmm.
the reasons why you like something, not just scream and yell. You know what I mean? Why
Right.
something's better than the other. Like that doesn't get me anywhere. That doesn't help me as somebody trying to listen to an audience out there what they like, right? And I'm never going to be able to appeal to everybody, but I can at least do what I can to relate to everybody. So that's interesting. That's a cool list. None of those I would have guessed.
Right.
None of
Yeah.
them.
And
Maybe
and big
Jade
shout out to that
Empire if you
PlayStation
give me
fan
enough
because
time.
yeah, and big shout out to that PlayStation fan who made that post because it was because there was people that came in there doing the same type of rigmarole, the Xbox dead, but other stuff, and him and quite a few people just shut him up. It was like, look, man, this is a legitimate question. Stop acting like you've never played an Xbox or whatever. Act like you got some sense.
Yeah.
That's what got because the first question was somebody who came in being silly
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's one of those posts. But then there was somebody that the person that made the post said that. Then other people was kind of jumping on that person. Then there was a couple of more people that tried to do it, and they weren't having it. And it came out to be it was about like 200 and some people made. But I mean, there was all different types of games. I mean, that was brought up there, but they had the list and they tallied it up of the top five, and I was like, what? Oh snap! Like it was very interesting, and it was cool because there was Xbox gamers in there as well. But it was just a cordial, great conversation that just kind of just stuffed the trolls. And so I mean, that's
Well,
something that I could
it,
definitely
but that's
probably
what I've been
ask.
talking to you about for a while, right? Like
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
that troll audience that I just don't think they have as big of a voice as they have. I mean, that's a perfect example. Some gamers are
Hmm.
just tired of it. They're just so sick of it, right? You just want to talk about some games, and they don't care about your ego. They don't care about who you are, how many followers you got. They just, oh, cool. It's a cool subject. That yeah, let's talk about this, right? Like
Yeah.
something they're interested in. And if you present a good enough subject, you're gonna get more conversations like that, and you realize gamer, you said 200. I mean, it's a small sample size, right? But it just kind of shows you like there's so many more gamers are more interested in those sort of conversations than the typical name calling and typical gotcha moments and trying to take
Right.
people out of context and that sort of stuff. There really is more gamers like that than you realize. They don't speak up all the time. You just have to give them a reason to have a conversation. So
Right, yeah, no, it was like I said, big shout out to them. I wish I had it. I had only because I only had the list. I wish I remembered what the name of that cat was because I shot him out. But and I wanted to talk about this so bad on GRG last night, but we got into that one first topic about um man, yeah, I forgot what that first topic was. Because I'd be thinking about so many other dang topics. Let me think. What was that first topic? Uh, oh, what's the obsession of hating on games that you don't like? But
oh,
yeah, that was
I think we've talked about that a
yeah, we've talked
lot,
about that
lot,
before a couple of
on
weeks
Devin
ago. Yeah,
Gamer.
I mean, well, I
Well,
mean, yeah,
you and
a couple
I
weekends
on
before.
Devin
Yeah,
Gamer, we've
yeah,
talked about it, but it's just
yeah.
insecurities. It's that that constant reinforcement that people need
Yeah.
to feel like they validated a purchase. And I would say, walk a little tall, guys. Like you don't need validation from other gamers. You just need to share it with people that care about that sort of game, right? As I said,
Mhm.
some games are going to be small, some games are going to blow up like ridiculously huge out of nowhere. There's an audience for all games that are out there. I mean, there's
No
people
doubt
like
about it.
Soda Drinker Pro, and there's people that like
Soda
the
drinking pro.
yeah, people. There's people that like the latest Call of Duty, right? Like that's a huge spectrum of games, and there's people for that for all that stuff. So
Yeah. So, well, all right, good stuff, man. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. It was a really great discussion. Oh, I guess I should say, what I should ask people in the panel, and maybe you too, Don. What would be the game? What,
I am the panel. You mean
oh,
the chat?
I mean, yeah, I said the panel. Yeah, the chat, and well, and you on the panel, but yeah, the people in the chat. Yeah, let me be country on that too. Uh, what game would, if you're a primarily Xbox gamer, a primary Xbox gamer, what PlayStation game from the old days would get you to get you to come back to being a PlayStation owner?
There's two. I mean,
What's
and
that?
I'm probably gonna eventually get one, so
Right.
don't discredit it. But um, Wipeout, a proper reboot of Wipeout.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like motorsport, like kind of motorsport level of doing Wipeout. Because I know there's been smaller iterations,
yeah, yeah.
uh, Wipeout would be one of them. And the other one would be Twisted Metal, a
Ah,
reimagining of Twisted Metal, something with like a
gosh, Twisted
crazy can.
Metal.
Imagine if
Oh,
Twisted Metal with a crazy ass campaign and like
oh
it,
gosh.
and then in the multiplayer that's they found like that extra like layer they can add to it, but the core elements are still there in regards to that. And so, yeah, car combat games. I mean, that was the thing for us growing up. A lot of people forget about that stuff,
Mhm.
man. But that was a genre.
Oh my
There
gosh.
was Vigilante 8, remember that and stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah, oh
uh,
yeah.
so so that was a genre game. Matter of fact, the people at Retro at one time were gonna do their own version of like a Twisted Metal. The people that work on Metroid Prime, they were going to do their own version of a Twisted Metal game. It got canceled. It didn't get the funding got pulled from it. But yeah, that genre of game, Twisted Metal did it the best, and
I
I would love to see a new iteration of it of some sort.
Yeah, David Jaffe already said that Sony was not looking for it. But see,
Yeah, I know.
as we were alluding to earlier in our very first topic, where Game Pass wins, you never know. There might be a developer that could be out there thinking the same, like, hey man, you know what? I could just kind of shoot this out
What
and put this on
that
Game Pass and see how this goes. Because
well,
the
that's what if
cartel
they
games were
they keep it.
always awesome.
So let's say they rebrand because they kind of have something like Game Pass, kind of not, but like what they have PS Now, evolve that,
Right.
turn that into your Game Pass, right? Make it more centric of downloading your game and playing your game, and get more and more stuff in there and see more success. And if you see more success, then they can start exploring those older stuff. But I mean, that's then again, it's about what would win me over. I guess more of a because I'm gonna buy one, but probably at launch sort of argument.
Right.
Those would be kind of at launch arguments for me. So
Yeah. Let me see. Seeing that Alex is saying Monster Jam Maximum Destruction. Hot dang, boy, I ain't heard that game in so long. Man, I don't see. It said, well, we already got Final Fantasy, so there is really no. Yeah, there's really nothing else. I'm trying to think. For me, I know that this game will never see the light of day, but a Battle Arena Toshinden would definitely get me to buy a PlayStation 5 day one.
yeah,
Um, oh yeah, it just in a heartbeat. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think of okay, so let's say uh Autumn issue. Let's just say that uh it has one of those like year exclusives or something like that, or it's an
okay,
exclusive for PlayStation. I'm all over it. I would be all over that day one for PlayStation 5. They show me Onimushu as a launch title. I'm like, what? I'm there. I'm there. And hopefully, Capcom is working on bringing back another one of those games. I don't know. I don't know how it did when they brought those older games back for like $20, but I love that series. One of my favorite series in gaming of all time. So I don't know, but yeah, that those two for sure. There's quite a few more. Legend of Legaia, if they rebooted that, I know that I believe that I think that is a Sony property. So yeah, bring that back. I would be all over that. And like you said, Twisted Metal. Uh, golly, I just can't believe that they would they would just give up on that franchise. Like, God, could you imagine what Sweet Tooth and Thumper and all those guys would be like now? Like, it would be crazy. Oh, it'd be so crazy. So I don't know, but where can they find you at, Don?
this is pretty much the place, right? On
Yep.
Mixer. So for those that catch it later, this is going to go on K Mega's channel. The audio is not going to be a problem anymore. There's no background game noise. Huge oversight on my part. Didn't think things through. So I apologize for the first one, but you're not catching it live. It will be on K Mega's channel, like it has been in the past. And then if you want to catch us live, it's going to be on Mixer. Me and Mega are working on a schedule. We're probably the two most unorganized people when it's actually not coming to work. It's just what we're doing for our spare time. So we're gonna try to work that out, and so we can have a little more consistency. Maybe twice a week, not twice a week, but twice a month. I'm thinking every other week.
Yeah.
We'll see if K Mega can commit to that. But yeah, definitely follow me on Mixer. I'm on my road to 400. I got a while to keep up with K Mega here. He's got a good head start on me. He gets to stream a little bit more, but yeah, definitely follow me here. Follow me on Twitter, and then eventually the YouTube channel will come alive. Just waiting for certain equipment to come through. So just want to do that right when I start doing the YouTube content as well. So if you're curious what that's going to be, just go ahead and follow me there. But don't expect anything anytime soon, though. So
All right. As for me, yeah, you can catch me on my channel on well until
The
the until
Don.
YouTube releases my channel back to the sense of me doing live shows and stuff like that. You can still catch my shows that I do with GRG and when I do other little videos and post them on there or whatever. You catch it on my YouTube channel at KMega405. But GRG, the Dev and the Gamer, and then also me streaming will consistently be on Mixer. Dev and the Gamer will be on Don's channel. GRG will be on my Mixer channel, of course. And man, just hope you guys support us. Go ahead and hit those follow buttons if you haven't. And man, just we appreciate the support that we're getting now. Us really getting started with this, and then yeah, we'll be streaming. Like we've been doing stuff on Saturdays for forever now. So we'll be starting, I guess, Halo tonight.
Are we doing reach?
I mean, if that's what you want to do, I don't have a problem with it. We can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So you know what I'm saying?
let's do it reach after next podcast. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do Reach. Then
Like an hour afterwards or something like that, so you can
yeah,
eat
yeah,
and all
yeah,
that sort of stuff, so people know what to expect. So yeah, if you guys catch next podcast, I'm sometimes on there. K Mega's on there pretty regularly. It's
yeah.
on
Every
Xbot
week.
448's channel.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Um,
We'll be on Xbot. Have the show in about 2 hours.
yeah,
2 hours from now, next podcast will start on his channel. Exactly 2 hours, right on the spot. So on
depends on how
Xbox
late you
Corporation.
are.
Yeah, because I mean, look, they can't talk about
he did.
GRG no more.
He he
Man,
don't.
next
He,
podcast, they went like 3 hours and 40,
it,
40 minutes,
li,
man.
li, li, yeah, I keep sabotaging it. I do intentionally go in there to make it run longer for because I know it gets under the goat for Pred, but
I
um,
was like, damn, bud.
yeah, give K Mega about an hour after next, right? You
Yeah,
got to
I
get
got
some
to
eat.
rest.
He's got to get some Flintstone vitamins in him so he doesn't get sick again. And yeah, we'll be doing some live streaming. Is Reach more than two people
What'd you say?
co-op? Is Reach more than two people co-op, or is it
I
more
thought
than
it was
that?
4 player. I thought it was 4 player co-op.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't
Alrighty.
played it multiplayer
Hey guys,
co-op
you
or
can check
story
this
mode
out
like
later.
that.
Whatever we're doing it, you want to hop in. If there's more than two allowed, definitely hop in. Oh, it's four. All right, Jazzy Noob.
It's for
The
yeah.
four. All right. Well, if someone can get in there, someone get in there.
Yeah, so we can
So
get in there and do it, and then once we get done with Reach on Legendary, then we'll have one more Halo left, and that is ODST to beat on Legendary, and then we'll have them all done, and then it's just us trying to get to that 152 on Halo 5. So that's that's the goal, and so then I can finally get my mind to want to start playing some single player games and stuff like that, so I can stream those. I mean, I'm sitting. I got Final Fantasy Remake that's ready to be seen to get back on Gran Turismo Sport and others and Plague's Tale and there's so many other games to get back on. But my main focus right now is to get to that 152. So all right, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. And damn, RDX went 3 hours and 30 minutes. Man, look GRG makes so many trends. I don't know. Like it was supposed to. Like people were like, no, don't go over 3 hours. Don't do this. Don't do that. And look, everybody else is feeling comfortable to just want
hey,
to talk and let it happen.
if the topics are hot
If the
you
topics are hard and
and the
people are listening,
friendship's there, the
yeah,
friendship is a big part of it too,
it's
right?
not a problem. It's
Yeah,
not a problem.
and people don't sometimes don't want us to end even when we have them going that long, but
Yeah.
yeah, the party continues when we're streaming later, right? Like that's how it works, right? Like
Right.
if you want to catch the after party, that's what
And if
happens
you
when we're
really want
streaming games.
and
So
if you really want to catch some crazy stuff, some crazy shit after the show, I mean on a stream, catch Sunday Night Fights because there's guaranteed to be wild talk to be said. It doesn't matter, you know, our lady fighter Vamp or Miss Wicked. Uh, she's she is very opinionated, and she has no problem with talking some good trash and kicking people's tail. And then of course we got Sir X Man, and you haven't watched
unless
it.
your name is Game Down Sights, and then
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
she
If your
takes a
name is
little.
Game Down Sights,
She's a little more gentle. I
yeah,
noticed.
yeah, she's a little bit more gentle to Game Down Sights, but you know
Well,
That's another story there.
we'll let you guys judge for yourself what's going on there.
But all right, man, we out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out and checking us out. And peace, man. We out.
Oh wait, it's my turn to hit the button.
Oh yeah, you got to hit the button, man. You
All right,
got to know.
I'm gonna hit this one. It's red.